In today's video, I'm going to be doing a full setup walkthrough of Kodai for the different modules that it supports, which includes sneakers raffles, Nike Flow, Nike Automation Flow, Shopify automations, Finish Line, as well as foot sites and automation foot sites. If this is your first time using Kodai and setting this up, first thing that you're going to want to do is navigate over to the settings page and set up your notifications. Notifications would be your Discord webhook. I got a separate video that shows you how to create a Discord webhook if you wanted to, which I will be linking. But once you've gotten that generated and you set this up over here, what you're going to be doing is setting up your preferences of how you want your notifications to look like. What do you want to receive? In this case, you can toggle on to only send success webhooks. If you want to separate where your success webhooks go, you could toggle that on here and set a new webhook. If you want, you can toggle on including useful slot info, which would consist of email address, maybe first and last name. Any additional details that may normally not be included within a webhook can be included. And then you can toggle on whether if you would like the proxy information to be included within that webhook as well or not. Once you've gotten this sorted out, on the right side of the screen, you have miscellaneous. What I want to bring your attention over to is clicking to configure your preferred sizing. If you're creating task groups and you're creating a lot of tasks, if you want to run a size 5, 8, and a 10, what you will need to ultimately do is create a preferred size group for those sizes, and then during the task creation process, assign it out. How would you do this? You'll select to configure, and in here, I have mine already set up from 5 to 13, but you can simply in the drop-down select the sizes that you wish. Once you've enabled them, toggle on, randomly select a size within your preferred sizing so that it literally just randomly selects one from the range and not all from the first thing that it picks up. Because if you have 10 different cards that you're running and the first product it picks up is a size 9, for example, not every single one of your tasks will be a size 9. That's one thing. The other thing is you can actually create groups. When you create a group, you'll name it what you like, and this allows you to be able to run multiple releases at once or create multiple automations at once based off of different groups that you created. So in this case, by default, you have preferred, and the additional ones that I've personally created are what you see here, which is known as shop, men's, and GS. So if I want to run a GS group, I've already assigned out that I want that size range to be a 5 to 7. Same idea when it comes down to men's, and same idea when it comes down to anything else that you've created for yourself. Once you've created these, then you're going to navigate over to the proxies page and just make sure that your proxies are added in. You'll dump your entire list in here. You can name it what you like, and once you've named it, it will appear in your list, as you can see right here. Once that's done, navigate over to the profiles page. Inside of the profile page, you can either manually add profiles one by one, or what you can do is you can actually import them. Inside of the import options, there's different formats. So first format is the Kodai export from AYCD. The next format is the CSV template that they have. If you click on CSV template, it's going to open that up for you, which is super cool. What you would ultimately do in this case is just simply add in the information pertaining to your billing details, so card, delivery, phone number, billing info. And once you've created your entire list, you'll select file, you'll download it. Make sure you download it in the comma separated values CSV format. And then when it comes down to the process of adding in, you're going to select file, and then you're going to choose it. So I'm going to quickly demonstrate this for you to see so you can see what it actually looks like in real time. And you're going to download CSV, and here it is. It's downloaded that for me. Just going to minimize this. We're going to select file. We're going to go to downloads, and inside of downloads is right here, Kodai CSV, and we're going to open this guy up. Now we're going to select continue. If you already have billing information saved into the bot, and you attempt to import new information, it overrides what you previously had. To prevent it from being overwritten, what you will need to do is toggle on import profiles onto existing. So it actually just adds to the list as opposed to overrides it. Next thing that you can do is assign profiles to a profile group. So in this case, we're just going to name this test, and we're going to select continue. Now, passphrase. You do not need to worry about this. You can simply skip this. Passphrases are not a thing. Just select import profiles, and that's it. It's gone ahead and it's imported it in. Now, in this section, by default, you're going to see all the profile groups. If you've created groups for yourself, you'll notice that they're made available to you and they will appear right here. We just added test, so I'm going to select test, and here it is. The default one that was already within the profile placeholder CSV file that we saw is already brought in. If I want to delete the group, I could select delete the group. Then it's going to give me an option to delete all the profiles in this group. And then it's going to give me an option to toggle on if I wanted to keep the profiles but remove the group. In this case, I just want to delete this entire profile group as well as the profiles associated with it. So this is what I'm going to be selecting. And that's it. Done. Now it's no longer made available to me. So once you've gotten your profile sorted out, navigate over to the release section. And inside of the release section is where you will be creating your task groups and tasks for the different type of releases that you're going to be going for. First thing that I'm going to start with is going to be sneakers. Sneakers, when it comes to task creation, select your release name. We're going to call it test sneakers in this case. And then it comes down to the store. You're going to notice that there's a store that says Nike, and then you have another store category that says Nike Flow. Nike Flow is used for desktop, first come, first serve releases and restocks, as well as when checking for early access. So sneakers early access. We're going to start it off with Nike sneakers. So we're going to navigate over to US, and we're going to create the release. I'm going to assign out my proxy list because the proxy list I'm assigning is what's going to be used to monitor the Nike website for products. I'm going to add the SKU in here. So in this case, I'm going to use this morning's release as an example. So we're going to go product SKU, press save. Now I'm going to configure my settings for this task group. What do I want? Do I want to re-enter on a loss? I toggled that on. Set profile details. If I toggle this on, it will take any billing information that I've brought in and will add that to my Nike accounts. And it will replace the previous billing information that was already assigned to the Nike account. I could toggle on whether if I want to use Brave browser or not. I can restart tasks on entry errors. And then I can, of course, include order numbers in my success webhook by toggling this on if I want. New addition to the sneakers module is being able to run request mode. By nature, Kodai is browser-based, but if you toggle on submit entries with request rather than browser, you're no longer going to see browsers open up, which makes it very nice because if you plan to scale up and run more tasks than your computer would have normally handled if you were running browser mode, this feature right here will allow you to do so. Just keep in mind, though, is that request-based tends to be harsher on your accounts and can get detected and filtered a lot more than browser-based because the behavior of entering these sneakers releases are not human-like. Once you've done this, you're going to press save, then you're going to configure your accounts. So here's where you're going to be adding your sneakers accounts, which will be used for the raffles. Now, within the placeholder, there's a multitude of ways of being able to add your account information in. You can do account, password. You can do account, password, IP. The IP address is going to be directly linked and married to that account. If you do not add a proxy, what it will do is it will simply use the ISPs you've assigned for monitoring for your task proxies as well. The other ways of doing it is user, password, CVV, and then the CVV code, which is the 3 digits or 4 digits on your credit card, on the back of your credit card. If you're running an Amex, it would be at the front of your credit card. If you run it in this way, what it does is it assumes that you've already uploaded the billing information onto the Nike account. So it's not going to go through the step of trying to validate that. It will just move forward with attempting to enter. You can do account, password, IP address, CVV, or now, which is what is important, is also adding in IMAP details because OTP codes have been enabled by Nike. So with that being said, if you wanted to include the IP, if you wanted to include the CVV, and you wanted to include the IMAP, what is that going to look like? So on the bottom over here, there's an example. You have your username, you have your password, you have the IP address, CVV, the IMAP information, which is the email address, the app password, and then the integration of the IMAP server. You can add them in as you see fit. If you prefer, you can use commas instead of colons as your separators as well. That's also made available to you. But once you've already added this in, what it will appear to look like is going to be like this. You got the email address, you have your password. So this is the Nike information. I've assigned an IP address to it. So this IP address is married to this account and will be used for my tasks. And then what I've done as well too is I've included the IMAP information so that it can scrape for codes. I have one master email that I use. All of my codes get emailed to that one master email. Made it super simple for myself. Once you've gotten that set out, now all you'll need to do at that point is just start your tasks. If we're going to be doing browser mode, I would just simply toggle this off. And here's what it's going to look like. I'm going to press start right here. It'll wait for product. Now it's stating flow product detected because the product already released and has now been removed from the sneakers calendar. But allow me to grab another SKU to use as a demonstration. There we go. And start. Kodai is a bit on the slower side, so when you do press start, it will go to waiting for product, and it may take some time before it picks up the product. So an important thing to understand when it comes to Kodai is that you wouldn't start your tasks 5-10 minutes before the sneakers drop. You would start your tasks 30 minutes to 45 minutes before the release. And once the product picks up, there you go. It will appear right there. And now my browser windows are actively opening up. And it's navigating over. It's just doing some checks. Once it's verified those checks, there it is. It will complete the sign-in process. It'll add the password. And what will most likely happen is it's going to trigger the OTP code itself. There it is. Now it's actively looking in my master email. Once it finds the code, it's going to plug it in here. And then it will finalize the login process. Another thing to understand too during this process here is if for any reason it's taking too long to find the codes, just check your master email's inbox and make sure it's not flooded and overloaded with Nike email requests. If your inbox is flooded, there's just way too many codes. Kodai is not going to be able to scrape the codes. So what you'll want to do as a best practice is navigate over to your Gmail, clear the inbox, and then right here, you're going to press this and it'll resend the code and allow it to actively scan for the code. Once it finds it, you'll notice that your task is going to transition over to waiting for, and then it'll give you a timer countdown. And here it is. It found the code once I resent it, and it's finishing up the login. That's that. This is the browser base. Now, if we wanted to do request, I'll simply enable submit entries with requests rather than browser. Press save. And then if I select start, after a waiting period, my tasks are going to get to the countdown timer right there. At entry time, it's going to log the entries for you and it's going to await results. So this is the sneakers request-based module. Now, I'm going to show you guys the shock drop as well as EA access. When it comes to the shock drop, the setup process is actually no different. You can either run browser or you can run request mode. You'll create your tasks like a normal sneakers release. You'll set your configurations as well as your accounts, just like a regular sneakers release. And about 5 minutes before the release, you'll press start. Your task will wait for product. And once it detects the product, it will attempt to check out for you. That's your shock drop. when it comes to early access is a bit different. Early access is not a raffle. Yes, you are using a sneakers app on a normal basis for early access, but the release method itself is known as flow. Flow is known as first come, first serve. So what you would actually need to do in this case is create a flow task group for the US. And in Flow US, you will set your product SKU. You'll set your proxies for monitoring. You'll assign hours, the task configuration, so logging into accounts. And then what I have right here is assign accounts to tasks with matching email addresses. And then the process of entering your accounts, you can just simply take what you've added into here and then paste it right here, press save. And then in configure settings, as you can see here, it looks totally different than the sneakers release. Use max cart quantity, amount allowed, etc. You wouldn't touch this when it comes to early access, just leave it as is. Create your tasks. So task creation would be choosing the ACO. Well, I'm choosing ACO, but of course for you will be a different case. We're going to use all the profiles, and then we're going to go to my task group of preferred men's, and we're going to create task, press save, navigate back, and that's it. I'm going to press start. Once you press start, here's what it's going to look like. So it's going to wait for email code. And of course, this release is already done. So you're seeing the results out of stock, or it's telling me that there is no early access for this account. But you would start your task, and once it detects it, it will automatically attempt to check out. And if there's no early access found for the account, it will identify that right here in your task status for you. So super easy to use. I would highly encourage you to take advantage of this. The Nike Flow sneakers early access checker is request-based. It's not browser. So technically you can dump all your accounts in here. I have 350 of them, and it will loop through and it will attempt to purchase for you. This is Nike sneakers as well as Nike Flow Initial. If you want to set up automations, the automations process is you're going to be changing the monitor type from SKU to automations. You're going to select configure automations, and in here is where you're going to be setting up your SKUs. So your SKUs, you can find the entire SKU list from the Nike Restock doc, the Google doc that I've created inside of the Restock Automations channel, or you can just scour through the Nike monitors and grab any SKUs that you like, and you can plug them in here. When it comes down to the configuration of it, you're basically telling Kodai that you want to pick up, so meaning that I want you to attempt to ATC, attempt to check out. When a product becomes available, you get toggle on automatically restart release after pickup. I would highly encourage you to do this because you don't want your tasks to run endlessly. So by enabling this, you're basically telling Kodai to restart the release 5 minutes after the product has been picked up. You can configure this if you want to, the timing of it, so you can have it run for 30 minutes if you wanted. What you can also do is you can set a webhook so that it sends a Discord notification webhook when a product picks up. So if your automation starts and your automation stops. This is a cool, unique feature that's brand new, which I highly encourage you to toggle on at all times, is automatically duplicate the release on product pickup and delete the old release on stop. What does this mean? It does not have the ability to be able to run multiple SKUs. So if 5 different SKUs were to restock right now on Nike Flow, and you only have one group and you do not have this toggled on, that one task group that you've created, which is actively running, will be focusing primarily on that first SKU that it picked up. If you toggle this on, if your product picks up, that one task group will actively go for the product. Now what Kodai will do is it will actually duplicate your task group for you and have that actively running so that if another product in your list restocks, that task group will fire off as well too. So now you're putting yourself in a position where you have 2 SKUs that are actively being ran for as opposed to just the one. Now, if in fact 5 different SKUs that you're monitoring restocks, Kodai will just create additional task groups for each SKU and will attempt to go for all of them at that time. So very efficient and very unique feature. Once you've gotten your configuration sorted out here, you're going to click off screen. You're configuring your settings here. By default, the cart quantity is 1. Sometimes they offload a lot of stock and they allow more than 1 cart quantity. So if you want to go for the maximum amount, you could toggle on use max that it allows. You'll press save, and then you would create your task groups and you'd press start. And when you press start, what it will look like is what you see here, waiting for product. Now, another thing that I do want to outline as well too is that I have my GS preferred task group in here. You might be monitoring 300 different SKUs, and say, for example, one of those SKUs, you know that only size 10 to 12 is actually going to be profitable. But because you don't want to create multiple groups with different sizes and etc., in creating a extra step and a hassle for you, and you want to keep that SKU inside of the main group that you're running, what you can actually do is you can set up your automations as you add all of your lists in here with something known as conditions. What are the optional conditions? Now, of course, you could select here to see what the optional conditions are, or you can just simply follow the shortcut that I'm giving you right now. You'll put your SKU in, you'll go space, hyphen, space, capital S, capital Z. This stands for size, colon. Now you can start typing out the size range you want to go for. So in this case, if you are monitoring the SKU where only size 10 to 12 is going to be profitable, you can set them up as you're seeing here in your screen, on the screen. And then the remaining SKUs that you have will assume that the preferred size range that you've assigned is fine and is accurate. You can create your groups like so, and then press save and start running your tasks. What will happen is if the SKU that you're actively monitoring restocks, because of the conditions that you've set to it, regardless of the preferred sizing you've given it in the task group, it will only go for the conditions that you've actively assigned. So you're creating a safety net for yourself. You're not accidentally going for 5 to 12 for the specific SKU, but instead you're making sure that Kodai knows to only go for 10 to 12. Here's how it would look like. So I have my men's automations right here. That's actively waiting for product. I have a list of all my SKUs. And then if you look at the bottom right here, I've told Kodai that for this SKU, if it restocks, only go for sizes 9 to 13. But if you look at my men's preferred size range is actually 7.5 to 12. So this is how you would set up automations for Nike Flow. You have to leave the bot open and your tasks need to be automatically running. If you want to create task groups for Shopify, you'll select a specific store if you're going for a specific store. So say, for example, we're going to be going for Bodega. You're going to create your release. Now in here, when it comes to the monitor type, there's different ways you can do this. You can do keywords, you can do links, you can do variants, or you can do what is known as multi-link. Your keywords, you'll put your good keywords here and your bad keywords here. There is no plus or negative that is required. If you want to go for a Yeezy 350, you'll put Yeezy 350. If you want to go for Yeezy 350 cinders, for example, you would put that right there. And then when it comes to the negative keywords, if you want to avoid preschool, you would put PS, space, pre, space, school, space. We don't want toddlers, so Todd, TD, and etc. You would just simply separate them with a space. There's no negative or positive symbols that are required to be added. Set your proxies. So we're going to set our ISPs. These are going to be doubling as monitor as well as task proxies. If you want to separate your monitor proxies and you also want to separate your task proxies, you'll just click the plus sign right here. to use a different set of proxies for monitoring. You would toggle this on, and then you can select the additional group that you want. So once the product is found, your tasks will be using fresh and unrestricted proxies to check out. So there's definitely some benefit to this. There are other bots that offer this unique feature as well too. Just keep in mind that if you do not have separate proxy lists in place, it would be important to make sure that you are using the same list you have here. Monitor delays. If you've paid attention to our Shopify guides, you would know that once queue is up, we advise to start at 15,000 milliseconds, and then 30 seconds before the release, drop that down to 3,500. You would be actively managing this through this area right here, and press save. Toggling on new products only. This is very useful in a case where if you're running a keyword that's quite vague and you run the risk of picking up a product that's already in stock. So this would actively look for new products that are being loaded when you toggle this on. Monitor type, going back to the other methods that they have. So your link would go into here. If you want to do multi-link, you click configure multi-link and you would just add a bunch of different links. This is useful in a case where you might have 4 or 5 different early links and you're not sure which early link is going to 100% be accurate and is going to be, in fact, the one that the product is going to be assigned to. So what you can do is you can add multiple variations or multiple type of links. Or for example, during a time where Kith is restocking and you don't know which product will be restocking, but you have 10 different links that you want to actively monitor, you could just simply dump the 10 different links into here, and whichever one picks up first is what your task will attempt to check out. During this configuration process, you can set conditions for that as well too. So similar to how we did in the beginning for Nike Flow restocks, you can separate your link and set your conditions by putting SZ colon and then adding in the sizes. So that if a specific product you're monitoring, that size range restocks, it will attempt to check out, regardless of what task sizing you've assigned. A few other things to know as well too is that if you toggle this on right here where it says until at least one size is in stock before picking up, the beauty of this is that if a product is loaded but there's no stock, it's not going to try to burn your proxies through ATCing and looping through out of stock. It'll literally wait until a product has actively restocked. That's how you set up multi-links. Variants, you can configure your variants. We add the variants inside of the Discord release channels. You simply assign what size it is, and then you would add the variant in here. And if you want to add additional variants, once you've added this in, you'll just simply select the plus sign and rinse and repeat this process. Press save, and then you'll create your tasks. Press save. You have different modes. You have safe mode. If you toggle on safe mode, this would be for bot protection. You have preloading. What Swift shipping is assigning out shipping rates, which I don't encourage anyone to be actively using at this time because shipping rates are constantly changing. Once you're done, you'll simply press start and your tasks will wait for product, or if there's a queue, we'll work through the queue. This is an initial Shopify release. To create automations, you'll go to Task Creator, just type in auto, there it is, Shopify automations, and create release. The cool thing about how Kodai conducts their automations is the process of it is very similar to Nike Flow automation restocks. In this area right here, when it comes to the configuration of it, you could select the stores. You can monitor either all the stores that it has actively listed out, or you can assign individual stores by going through the list. If you do follow what I do, which is just selecting all Shopify stores, if you're running direct product links, and if it picks up, it will automatically attempt to ATC that specific link that restocked. So this gives you the flexibility of being able to create one group and monitor multiple websites, or in this case, all websites that's Kodai is actively supported. You can also do keywords if you wish to, which are a lot more risky And if you are running all Shopify sites, I don't recommend it because a keyword could match with, for example, a Japanese site or a European site or Israeli site. And some of those don't offer shipping, or if they do offer shipping to the States, those fees could be extremely high. So the safest way to do Shopify automations is ultimately going to be through the process of individual links. You can set your conditions at the bottom here, so automatically delete the created release on stop. So instead of just having a bunch of different groups being created, it will delete the created group once it stops. Automatically stop release after condition is met. So based off of the condition that you're setting, if you want checkpoint to go down and then have your task stop, you would enable this. Or if you want it to run for a specific period of time before it stops, you can enable this. Underneath that, automatically choose optimal task mode on start. You're basically giving Kodai the judgment approval to decide whether if it should be firing off fast mode tasks or preload tasks or safe mode tasks. It will determine that based off of whether bot protection is up or not. Automatically start release when checkpoint goes up. You can start this as well by setting it up as passively wait for stock or aggressively wait for stock. What you can toggle on is search for keywords and product link. This is addition to title. So in this case, if you're running keywords or if you're running SKUs, for example, it will use the SKU to try to match to the product link. So it would work, for example, this would actively work for Kith in this case, because Kith has the Nike SKU inside of their links right here. And if you put in a positive keyword for a SKU that you want to monitor, it will also search the product link and try to match it up in this situation. Configure a default minimum and or maximum product price. Very self-explanatory. If you want to set a price range so you don't accidentally check out an item that's more expensive, you can set that up through here. You set your minimum as well as your maximum right here in dollar figures. This is US dollar figures, by the way. If you're going for a US site, if you're going for a Canadian site, it would be Canadian dollars. If you're going for any other country, the figure that you put into here would be for the currency of that website you're going for. Underneath that, you have send a webhook notification on release start and stop. So this is your automation start and stop notification webhooks that you would be getting. Once you've created this and you set this up, same process once again. Set your proxy list. So this is your monitoring, which will also be used as your tasks. If you would like to separate them, just simply press the plus sign. And from here, you can assign out a separate group. Make sure your monitor delays are set to 3,500 or 4,500, whichever you please. Just don't make it below 3,500 because you run the risk of banning your proxies. Create your task groups right here. And you can leave the rest of this as is. If you toggled on this feature right here, which is automatically choose optimal task mode, Kodai will set whether if it's safe, preload, or fast mode all on its own for you while it's actively running. Now, of course, I haven't added anything into here, so I'm not going to start my tasks, but very much like Nike Flow's task status, it will say waiting for product. Once it detects and it matches a product that you're monitoring has restocked, very much like Flow, it will create a separate group and it will actively monitor for you while the main group that you had it attached to, which was actively running, will run for that restock. And once the restock is over, the group will delete itself. That's the Shopify automation side of it. Now, foot sites, simply just select the foot site that you're going for. Proxy list, in this case, is recommended to run Resi. So we'll assign our Resi list, leaves the monitor delays as is. You'll add the product SKU. And then on this side right here is where you have use optimized requests, ignore data dump captchas. So do not touch these, just leave them as is. You can add gift cards if you plan to use gift cards on checkout. Configuring your third-party captcha solvers, you can add them into here. And you could toggle on whether if you want it to be used actively for QIT solving or data dome solving. Kodai supports 2-captcha, anti-captcha, and cap monster. And right here in the placeholder, as you can see, you have your how you would be adding this in. So it would be typing it out two captcha in capitals. So let's go right here. Two captcha in capitals, space, hyphen, and then your API key, one after the other listed in here. And it will just use a combination of all of them based off of the conditions that you've given it. You'll press save, create your task groups with the preferred size ranges. And if you're running gift cards, toggle this on. If you're not running gift cards, just press start. If you want to run automations, you'll simply change SKU to multi-SKU, configure multi-SKU. You'll add all of your SKUs in here, the foot site SKUs. You could set conditions if you like, as I had shown you in Shopify as well as Nike. So the conditions, what do they look like? It was your PID, which is a SKU of your foot site, space, hyphen, space, size, colon, and then you assign your size ranges right here. You can set that out. Once you've done that, you can navigate over to the bottom where you set your conditions once again. So pick up the product when it's loaded or checked out. If we do checkout, it's going to ask you how many checkouts in the past minutes you need in order for me to start running my tasks for you. This is what you're telling Kodai. I recommend selecting checked out as opposed to loaded, because if you have loaded and the monitor simply loads the product, Kodai's automations will fire off. So with that being said, set your conditions based off of checked out. And from here, you can assign whatever figure you like. If you want Kodai to start running after it's noticed one checkout has occurred in the network within a minute, you would set it up as one time within 1 minute. You can, of course, adjust these and configure these based off of your needs. Underneath that automatic reset monitor, always toggle this on because you want your tasks to stop and restart itself and not endlessly run for that product. So you can reset it when the product is unloaded or has less than 3 checkouts within a minute, or reset product when it's been picked up for 1 minute. You can change these conditions to your liking. The optimal setup would simply be less than 3 checkouts within a minute. So as your tasks are actively running, if Kodai detects that there's been less than 3 checkouts in the past minute, it's going to stop your tasks and restart it and go back to waiting. You can assign a separate monitoring delay if you wanted to. You can set a separate amount of proxies for monitoring if you wanted to. And then, of course, you can set webhook notifications for when automations pick up as well as stop. If you want further information on the conditions, you can simply click this button right here. By clicking that button right there, it'll bring you over to multi-SKU monitoring, and it gives you a further in-depth review of what I just shared with you to date. You'll press start, and very much like Nike Flow, your tasks will wait for product. Once it detects that one of those PID SKUs that you're actively monitoring has restocked, your tasks will transition over into attempting to check out and looping out of stock, running restocks. That's the foot sites. Last one here to review with you today will be running finish line. So running finish line, Kodai at the moment supports both app as well as desktop. If you're running app, you can add accounts. You can also run without them. If we're not doing that, you're just going to leave this toggled off. You add the product, comma, space, SKU, comma, space, color ID. You assign your proxies, leave the delays as is, save. Let's create tasks around that. And from here, if we're going to be running desktop, we'll be toggling on desktop. Are you sure you want to mass change your task to desktop mode? This can't be undone. So do I want to change all 100% of it, or do I want 50% of it? Well, we'll pretend that we're going for 50%, 50-50. So half my tasks that were created are going to be desktop, while the other half are mobile module. I would save, and then I would press start. This is how you would actively run finish line. Couple important things to note as well too is that if you run finish line JD desktop, captcha solving is required. Same thing goes when it comes down to running Shopify. So we need to make sure that we have our harvester set up. So we're going to navigate over to the captcha section, and in here is where we're going to be creating solvers. So for example, we're going to run finish line. So I'll just name this finish line 1. It will ask me for a proxy. So you would input your proxy in there and press continue. Then it will be asking you to sign into the Gmail. Once you've done so, it will look like what you see here. Now, when it comes down to opening the solvers, I can either open all or I can either open individually. If I want to open individually, I'll simply select the box right here. And then I would select the website that I want to assign to that captcha solver. So in this case, we're going to go with finish line, open solver. And the solver opens right here. If I'm going to be doing Shopify, I have the option of selecting checkout only or Shopify for just the initial. Open solver. My solver will appear right here. Unlike other bots, unfortunately, Kodai does not feed Shopify captchas into AYCD. So you will need to have harvesters open if you do plan on going for releases that require captcha solving on Kodai. So make sure you have these solvers open in the background if you are going for bot protection restocks or initial releases, so that when the captcha populates, you can actively solve them. If you're going for fast mode restocks only on Shopify, solvers will not be needed. For finish line, if you're going for mobile only, solvers are not needed. If you're going for desktops, make sure you definitely do have solvers in place. And that's it. This is Kodai in a nutshell. If you have any questions, please open up a ticket. I'm more than happy to assist you. Other than that, they do have built into the bot, as we saw today, detailed guides linked to each module. So when in doubt, you can just simply click, open up the URL document that they navigate you over to, review what's been written and demonstrated, and take it from there. And if all else fails, open up a ticket and we'll get you sorted. Thank you for watching.